What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over several things that you might want to do before Fortnite Star Wars Galactic battle ends, because it will be ending this upcoming weekend on June 7th. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more, and comment down below what you thought of this season. So obviously, with the Fortnite season ending, the first thing you're going to want to make sure you do is that you finish leveling the pass and unlock anything you need or want from this season's battle pass, because once the season ends, you will no longer be able to progress the season's battle pass. These items may end up returning to the item shop, I believe 18 months from now or so. But if you have, a big desire for any of these items, it's probably best you just unlock them while the pass is still levelable, so you have a little less than a week to do that. Also, with these kind of videos, I make one every season. One thing that I always recommend players do at the end of the season is kind of try different items in the loot pool that they've maybe ignored or didn't use as much, because a lot of times if you get set in playing one specific way and then the meta changes next season or the loot pool changes next season and the things that you don't like aren't there anymore, not only can that make it harder for you to adjust to the new season, but you're probably going to have more of like a negative, thought process on that season. And with these final few days of the season, kind of just mixing it up can make it a bit more fun to play a season that you're kind of tired of at times. But this Star Wars season ending is a very unique situation, because we're probably going to see a very significant change to the loot pool, because with this Star Wars season, we had an entire Star Wars themed loot pool full of Star Wars blasters. And so the loot pool we end up getting for next season will probably be entirely different as far as weapons go. Because of this, I would highly recommend playing reload mode or creative in this time, because you get used to using more regular weapons again. I know a lot of players this season, the fact that the blasters didn't need to be reloaded was something that kind of threw them off for a bit. And going back to regular guns, you might find yourself just completely forgetting to reload, and, adjusting to Season 3 with regular weapons again might be a bit harder for you. So going back to regular guns, whether it's in reload or creative, I think will be helpful to you. And then it's also, decent chance that some of these items will be included next season. We don't really know exactly what the loot pool will be, obviously, but it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of the weapons we had from Chapter 6, Seasons 1 and 2 come back into the loot pool. Obviously, as I said, we don't know entirely which ones it will be, but I expect it to be, some of those same weapons, plus some new weapons, plus some new items, maybe some old returning items. But either way, playing reload mode or creative using the Chapter 6 weapons, I think will help you get acclimated to using regular weapons again, but also have some sort of muscle memory if these items do end up being included in the loot pool. It's, I think, 0% chance we go into Season 3 and it's just entirely new weapons that we've never seen before. I don't think that is going to happen at all. Creative maps will also allow you to fight creative maps that allow you to fight other players, and reload mode are also just much faster paced than regular BR. And one thing I've always recommended for players, if you do want to improve, is just to get in more fights. And, this is always true, but I think at the end of the season, it's also even more true, because, when a new season comes out or when the season is still kind of fresh, I feel like people care more about their wins, especially getting the first win for the umbrella. But we're in the final few days of a season. Do you really care if you finish the Star Wars season with like 10 more wins than what you have now? Maybe, maybe not. But either way, just playing a bit more loose and a bit more aggressive can, I think, help you get a lot better at the game, but also kind of make it more fun again if you are someone who's a bit burned out of the current season or tired of the current season. And that's like mainly what these videos kind of focus on. Not only is like how to make these final few days of the season more fun, but also to help you improve and help you play better when the next season does inevitably come. So just like, I think there's many reasons to play creative and reload mode if you want to improve, but especially if you're very burnt out on the Star Wars season, just playing one of those other game modes will freshen it up a bit and help you play better in the long run. Even if you do just hate those other modes for whatever reason, playing more aggressive in BR can also be helpful for you. It's just BR isn't as time deficient as like playing creative or reload mode. It's just the least efficient game mode in terms of like time spent to the amount of fights you can get in. But it still, would benefit you a lot more than you know, camping these final few days and trying to like make it in game and just third party the last fight and get a win with 1 kill. In addition to like using different items, I think landing at different POIs on the map can also be something that can really help you when the new season comes, but also make these final few days a little bit more enjoyable and a little bit more fresh. But especially when a new season comes, I've experienced this as well. If you know, are very set in landing at certain locations, let's just say Masked Meadows, for example. If you've only landed at Masked Meadows since Chapter 6 started and that has been like your main spot, if, you know, the new season comes and Masked Meadows is gone, you're probably going to be, you know, a little bit upset about that, a little bit thrown off by it, and your likelihood of enjoying Season 3 is a bit lower. And Masked Meadows is one of the places that is rumored to be changing next season. I believe Masked Meadows, Seaport City, and Shining Span are the main POIs that are expected to change, but there will probably be several map changes across the map. Personally, I would be surprised if the Star Wars POIs are still there. We haven't really seen how that would play out in terms of like collab seasons and collab POIs, but I think in the past when we've had collab POIs, they're usually gone after 1 season. The Daily Bugle is an exception to this, but either way, I would expect the Star Wars stuff to change, and then there likely will be a lot of other spots on the map that change. And so learning different spots, I think, will make it easier for you to play if your main location in Season 3 does change. But again, freshen up the game, because if you've been only landing at 1 spot the entire time, you've probably gotten pretty bored of that, and just switching it up will make these final few days, I think, a bit more exciting and a bit more fun to play. Another thing I often suggest when we get to the end of the seasons like this, when we have time, is just going to be that if you have been putting off changing any sort of settings, then maybe now would be a good time to do that, especially if you are going to be putting a decent amount of time into creative and reload, where you can really get into a lot of fights and build that muscle memory. But this kind of just goes back to the same thing I was talking about before, where like, do you care if you play a little bit worse for the final week of a season? Does it matter to you that much if you get a few less wins? Probably not. And so now would be an ideal time for you to change your settings and get used to it before the new season comes, rather than doing it, you know, at the start of the new season, or just continuing to kick that can down the road. This doesn't mean you need to change your settings. If you feel comfortable and fine, don't change them. I've had basically the same settings for years now. But if you are someone who knows, like, yeah, my sense is too slow or too fast, or, you know, my binds aren't good and I want to change this, if you have any sort of things like that in mind, now would be a decent time to adjust that, because right now doesn't matter too much. The new season is probably going to matter to you a lot more. And this is another thing that can kind of make playing in this kind of dull time a lot more fun when you're seeing that progression and you getting more used to the settings and building that muscle memory. It's something that can make the game fun again in a time where maybe you're not having the most fun. And if you are someone who's just like completely burnt out on this season and you're not having a good time, just playing less or taking a short break for the next few days, I think could be a good thing. Obviously, you do run the risk if you just don't play at all that maybe you'll play a bit worse when Season 3 comes, or you'll be rusty. But if you're someone who usually plays like 4 to 5 hours a day, you know, playing 1 hour, or, you know, playing slightly less and giving yourself a bit of a break, I think will not only help you be less burned out on the game when Season 3 comes, but I think also just go in with a more fresh perspective rather than just continuing that burnout season to season, because that is something that personally I experienced in Season 2 when I played too much and when there was too many delays in the seasons. I didn't really take breaks, and, you know, I went into a new season just already burnt out on the game because I never really recovered from, you know, being burnt out on the previous season. So if you aren't enjoying the game, take a break from it and you'll probably enjoy Season 3 a lot more. But that is going to be it for this video. As always, if you guys did find this to be helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.